There's a place on Earth where bones dissolve, shells vanish, and even steel groans like wood about to splinter. Down there, the pressure is so extreme that a single fingernail carries the weight of a family car. Sunlight never visits. Sound travels strangely. And yet, against every expectation, life not only survives, it thrives. This is the story of the Mariana Trench, a world so alien it might as well be another planet. But it's not. It's right here, hiding beneath the Pacific waves. And what we've discovered about it has shaken everything we thought we knew about life, the Earth, and even ourselves. In the late 1800s, a British research vessel called the HMS Challenger set sail on a 4-year mission. Their task sounded dull: measure the depth of the ocean by lowering ropes with weights tied to the end. But on one unremarkable day in the middle of the Pacific, something strange happened. The rope just kept going. 3 kilometers, 4, 5, still no bottom. Imagine being on that deck, tying on more rope, knowing nothing but a thin wooden hull separated you from a dark, endless void. When the weight finally touched bottom, it had gone down more than 8 kilometers. This was no ordinary seafloor. It was a scar in the Earth's crust, deeper than anyone had thought possible. That scar would later be named the Mariana Trench. And if the crew had drifted just a little farther west, they would have found something even stranger: the Challenger Deep, a slot within the trench, plunging nearly 11 kilometers down. If you placed Mount Everest inside, its peak would sit 2 kilometers underwater. The ocean had just revealed its deepest secret. But secrets, as we'd learn, were the trench's specialty. But what could carve a hole so vast into the Earth itself? The answer lies in geology's most violent tug-of-war. Think of Earth's crust as a patchwork of giant plates floating on molten rock. Along the Atlantic Ocean, new seafloor is constantly created, pushing continents apart. But the Pacific is different. It's shrinking. The floor there is old, cold, and heavy. And heavy things sink. At the edges of the Pacific, the seafloor doesn't just stop. It's shoved downward, sliding under lighter plates like a conveyor belt disappearing under a door. This process, called subduction, is the planet's ultimate recycling system. Ocean crust dives into the mantle, melts, and is reborn as volcanoes. Around this fiery ring, known as the Ring of Fire, 90% of the world's earthquakes strike. The Mariana Trench marks one of the most dramatic of these subduction zones. Here, the Pacific Plate bends and buckles beneath the Philippine Plate, creating a scar nearly 70 kilometers wide and 2,500 kilometers long. It's not a static wound either. Over geologic time, the deepest point wanders. Today, Challenger Deep holds the record. Tomorrow, it may be somewhere else. And eventually, humans couldn't resist the temptation to dive into the unknown. A steel sphere, barely big enough for 2 men, is lowered into the Pacific. Inside sit U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh and Swiss oceanographer Jacques Picard. Their vessel, the Trieste, is more bomb than submarine. A gasoline-filled float on top and a pressure sphere beneath. Walls thicker than a bank vault. For nearly 5 hours, they sink. At 9 kilometers down, a thunderous bang shakes the craft. An outer window has cracked. Any slip here would mean instant annihilation. But they keep going. Finally, at the seafloor, they see a storm of stirred-up sediment. In the haze, a shape moves. What looks like a flatfish. Today, experts think it was likely a sea cucumber, but in that moment, it proved something astonishing. Life exists even here. They stayed just 20 minutes before beginning the 3-hour climb back to daylight. And then, silence. For half a century, no one dared repeat the journey. It wasn't until 2012 that filmmaker James Cameron made the first solo dive into Challenger Deep in his submersible deep-sea Challenger. Then came the turning point. In 2019, explorer Victor Vescovo piloted a craft called Limiting Factor on multiple dives, not only into the Mariana Trench, but to the deepest points in all 5 oceans. For the first time in history, the abyss was repeatable. But even machines built for pressure can fail. In 2014, the robotic sub Nereus imploded in the Kermadec Trench at nearly 10 kilometers. Gone in an instant, and in 2023, the tragic implosion of the Titan submersible at just a third of that depth reminded the world that the ocean doesn't forgive mistakes. So why risk it at all? Because the abyss hides creatures that defy biology itself. Biologists once believed life couldn't survive below 6 kilometers. The crushing pressure should destroy cells, block metabolism, and dissolve shells. The trench laughed at that assumption. Down in the Hadal zone, named after Hades himself, life rewrites the rules. Giant single-celled organisms called xenophytophores sprawl across the mud, building intricate shells from grains of sediment. They look like blobs of jelly, yet they're among the largest single cells on Earth. Then there are the Mariana snailfish, translucent, soft-bodied, and perfectly adapted to a world where calcium carbonate can't exist. These ghostly fish thrive at depths near 8,000 meters, feeding on tiny crustaceans and laying unusually large eggs. In 2017, scientists captured specimens, proving they were real. And in 2023, a related snailfish was filmed swimming at 8,336 meters, the deepest fish ever seen. Bioluminescence paints the midwater like a galaxy. Anglerfish dangle glowing lures. Shrimps flash like broken strobes. Even some sharks glow faintly. Down here, light is a language. It says, "Eat me," or more dangerously, "Come closer." But the most shocking discovery wasn't what lived there. It was what followed us down. When researchers dissected amphipods collected from Challenger Deep, they found something horrifying. Plastic. Tiny fragments of fibers, films, and microbeads were lodged in their guts. These weren't ancient fossils. They were the leftovers of human life at the surface. Clothing, packaging, everyday trash. The Hadal zone had once been shorthand for untouched wilderness. Not anymore. Today, it's described as the deepest litter box on Earth. Even here, where light never reaches, our influence is unmistakable. These plastics can carry toxic chemicals and disrupt fragile food webs. And if creatures at the bottom are eating them, the effects may crawl up the chain in ways we don't yet understand. The abyss isn't just a sink. It's a mirror, reflecting us back at ourselves. But life down here isn't only victim. It's built some of the strangest body plans on Earth. When food is scarce, survival favors extremes. Take the pelican eel, whose massive jaws open wider than its body. One gulp can swallow prey bigger than itself. Or the lancetfish, 2 meters of predatory muscle with needle-like teeth. Amphipods, normally the size of rice grains in shallow water, balloon into hand-sized scavengers in the trench. Sea pigs, pale, squishy sea cucumbers, wander in herds, vacuuming the sediment for scraps. And then there's the giant squid, a true monster of the midwater, stretching more than 13 meters with eyes the size of dinner plates. Only a few have ever been seen alive. This trend is called deep-sea gigantism. Bigger bodies conserve energy, scare off predators, and endure longer between meals. Down here, size is survival. And what about the myth of the megalodon lurking in the deep? As thrilling as it sounds, the evidence says no. Fossils show it went extinct over 3 million years ago, and modern sonar and DNA sampling would have caught such a beast by now. The trench gives us giants, but they're real ones, not legends. Yet beyond the biology lies something equally important: the map itself. For centuries, maps of the seafloor looked more like sketches than science. But that's changing fast. A global project called Seabed 2030 has one goal: map the entire ocean floor by the year 2030. As of mid-2025, about 27% of the seafloor is mapped in high detail. That may sound small, but it's an enormous leap compared to a decade ago. Every new scan sharpens tsunami models, improves submarine safety, and reveals habitats no one knew existed. High-tech submersibles now carry multi-beam sonar systems, tracing valleys and ridges in fine detail. Autonomous drones sweep vast areas, while human pilots target trench hotspots. Each new line of data transforms the blank spaces on our charts into real landscapes. Cliffs taller than Everest, plains wider than continents, volcanoes hiding under kilometers of water. But mapping also raises questions. If we know where the metals and minerals lie, do we leave them alone or mine them? Deep sea mining companies argue we need cobalt and rare earths for renewable technology. Scientists warn that disturbing the abyss could devastate ecosystems that take centuries to recover. The trench isn't just a frontier, it's a battlefield of values. And the scariest part? For all we've learned, the abyss is still mostly unknown. Fewer than 30 people have ever visited Challenger Deep. More people have walked on the moon. Only a few hundred species have been formally described from Hadal depths. Compare that to thousands in a single freshwater lake. Most of what we know comes from baited cameras, a dead fish tied to a pole, lowered into blackness, recording what shows up. It's like trying to understand the Grand Canyon by lowering a flashlight into one spot at night. But the tools are changing. Reusable deep diving subs, landers that sit for months, recording sound, chemistry, and behavior. Genetic sampling of water that reveals what's living nearby without catching it. Slowly, the trench is giving up its secrets. Those secrets could change medicine, materials science, even climate prediction. Enzymes from trench microbes might lead to new treatments. Data from trench sediments help us understand earthquakes and tsunamis. And the strange chemistry of vent ecosystems offers clues to life's very origins. The abyss isn't an empty hole. It's a research library we've barely opened. From a rope that wouldn't stop sinking in 1875 to submersibles that now return with maps, footage, and specimens, the Mariana Trench has transformed from rumor to reality. But in many ways, we're still at page 1. The abyss doesn't scream for attention. It waits, patient, precise. It records every quake, every chemical shift, every fiber of our trash that settles onto its floor. It teaches biology how to bend, physics how to break, and humanity how small we are. If we want to know where quakes will strike, how oceans will steer climate, and what life can become when rules collapse, the answer is written 11 kilometers down. The trench isn't just a scar on the earth. It's a mirror. Look into it, and you don't just see the deep. You see us. And maybe, just maybe, the most shocking discovery still waiting down there is how much of the future depends on what we choose to do with what we've already found.